Hello, friends. It's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums with another pick a pile reading for the week. So, this is your opportunity to choose whatever deck you feel drawn to, and then go check out the timestamps to go see where your reading begins. So, this is pile 1, this is pile 2, and this is pile 3. I'll see you where your reading is. Have a good one. Hello, pile number 1. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you're ready for your reading. I have already shuffled the cards, so let's see what we have for you today to kind of keep in mind as you continuously move through these energies. So, the Knight of Pentacles, the Four of Swords reversed, the Queen of Swords reversed. I'm feeling you, the Nine of Cups, and the Eight of Cups reversed, and the King of Cups reversed with the Queen of Cups. Okay, I think that's all I want for this out of the tarot cards. So let's pull a couple of the oracle cards I have here. So I have Dryad, and then I have Abracadabra. Then we're going to grab a tree for grounding. That's funny, 2 trees. And then we'll grab this one. I don't even know what this one is, but we're going to put it there. Hopefully everything is still in frame and the lighting isn't horrible today. It's been so dreary here the last week or so. It's kind of funny. That's funny. All right. Okay, I think these are all the cards that I want to pull for you. So let's just make sure everything's good. Okay, so for the actual tarot cards I pulled, starting with the Knight of Pentacles. So there may be something that you've been feeling like this push to kind of get started, to maybe chase after. Maybe you've been kind of wanting to really focus on your physical existence in a lot of different ways, and maybe you feel like I have to kind of get out there. I need to try something. I need to kind of get out of my own way. I need to really figure out what I'm willing to fight for when it comes to my physical existence. So whether that is like a new job, feeling a sense of trying to figure out how you're making money, how you're taking care of your physical body, what you're doing in your physical space, in your home, things of that nature may be something that you've been really wanting to focus on. And so that's maybe why the Four of Swords is reversed here, because maybe it's not allowing a sense of being able to heal, to reconnect, to take that time out, to work past some of the wounds that you've been carrying, especially when it comes to like maybe a little bit of like sadness and isolation. And I think of the Four of Swords as like an opportunity to say like, I need a respite. I need some time to just kind of like reconnect, ground myself, figure out what I'm doing, and then move from that energy. Now, the Queen of Swords reversed to me can just say that maybe there's a sense of wanting to kind of pull back. Especially when it comes to the more analytical, the logical. Maybe you feel like you've been pushing forward too much. Maybe you feel like you can't really stand in your truth in some ways. And so that may be something that feels very limiting. It can feel very, not just limiting, but also maybe you feel a little bit disempowered at the moment, or maybe you've been kind of thinking a lot as far as like what you need to do. So this may be a time where you're wanting to kind of get your plans in order. You're trying to get yourself situated. You're trying to figure out what's going on so that your wishes can come true, so that your dreams can be fulfilled. So right now, maybe there's a lot of this kind of internalized, I don't have time to work too much on the mental because physically I'm trying to get things going so that I can start getting some of the emotional rewards because of my physical hard work or my physical dedication. And so right now it can just feel very much like you're having to maybe pull back in some ways, or maybe there is like something that you're still carrying that needs to be released. And in order for that thing to be released, for you to really enjoy and reap the rewards. And it's funny that this interpretation has like a cat with like a cage behind it, and then there's like little feathers, like it ate the canary. And I feel like that is some energy with the Nine of Cups that a lot of people don't really recognize, is that sometimes it can feel very much like you're having to be very aware of what it is that you want, even at the expense of others, so to speak. So your wishes are coming true, your dreams are being fulfilled, but there may be something that feels like you're having to be a little bit, not sneaky, but maybe not all of the things that we hope for are always for the benefit of everyone around us, if that makes sense. I guess that's kind of like what I'm trying to say here. But the thing with the Nine of Cups is that it does talk about your wishes coming true, your desires being fulfilled. And it's because of you doing what is necessary. And I thought it was interesting to then get nothing but cups at the bottom here, because then we have the Eight of Cups reversed. This can just talk about maybe you haven't emotionally really let go or moved on from something. Maybe you're hanging on to a situation, or maybe you feel like you don't have a lot of power to let go and move on. So maybe there's a little bit of a hesitation to really dive into this sort of energy, like of what you want. It's maybe that is something that is being kind of held back at the current moment. And so it can feel very much like things are just not progressing the way that you thought they were going to, but maybe it's also challenging for you to emotionally disengage, to emotionally move forward, to really see some progression and momentum and movement, because maybe it's hard for you to say, you know what, I'm willing to just walk away from this. Maybe there's something that's still like holding you back, or there's a lack of structure in your life in other areas where that also makes it a little bit challenging. Now, with the King of Cups reversed and also having the Queen of Cups here, I would definitely say, and this deck is really old, so it's been shuffled, it's been used a lot. So it's just funny to have so many cups just like in order here. Is the King of Cups to me can just talk about someone who's very emotionally mature, someone who's very emotionally connected. So this being reversed, to me, there's some sort of internalization with that. There's something that isn't really being dealt with. There's something that isn't being processed emotionally. Maybe there's some blocked feelings about what you want, or maybe there's a lack of romanticization. Is that a word? I don't even know if that's a word. Romanticization? I don't know, something along those lines. Like maybe there's a lack of romance and connection, or there's just like this sense of not really feeling emotionally stable in what has been happening around you and what's kind of going on in your current environment. And so right now, maybe there's like a big disconnect between how you truly feel and finding that sense of stability. And maybe that's because you haven't let go of something. There's something from the past that is making you hang on. And so maybe you're wanting to kind of nurture yourself and take care of yourself. And maybe it's hard for you to really allow yourself to kind of stabilize these feelings. When I think of the Queen of Cups, I think of just like this very mothering kind of energy, but sometimes that can be almost smothering. Not all nurturance is for our benefit, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but it's like one of these things where it's like, we can't always be giving and giving and giving. We have to also receive. It has to be in balance. And I think with this Queen of Cups is that maybe she hasn't really learned how to regulate that part of herself yet. And so that is why this King of Cups is showing up reverse, and why this Eight of Cups is also showing up reverse, because it's almost saying like maybe there's something that's being held back. Maybe there's a lack of balance between the feminine and the divine masculine. And so there's maybe this like push and pull of like, I just have to keep going. And so I can't really take time out to do things that I love and connect to the things that I really want. And maybe that's why there's so many trees here with some of these other cards. Because Dryad to me is a reminder of connecting to like tree spirit, to grounding, to even just giving yourself an opportunity to kind of reconnect to nature in new ways. Because a Dryad is essentially that kind of like nature's spirit. And again, I don't really use these cards too often. I use a newer version of this deck, and I don't ever pull this card. So it's kind of funny that this would be the one that would come out. And so Dryad to me, and just looking at the imagery here, is more of just like finding that space to feel a little bit more established, more nurtured, more connected, and really moving into that energy a little bit more. And so I think that maybe it's a reminder for you is that you need to kind of like ground yourself, connect to this kind of earthy energy, but there's been other things that have been kind of pushing and pushing and pushing that's making it hard for you to kind of come back to this Knight of Pentacles sort of energy of like, I need to ground myself. I need to really connect to the grounding sort of energy. I think it's interesting because that's actually the image on the back of the cards. When I think of trees, I think it's not so much about just going out into the forest and things like that. When I think of grounding, I think of how do you feel in your own space? Do you have your own space? Have you taken some time out to kind of reconnect to you, to like do your like magical working, so to speak, whatever they may be, or your rituals or your, self-care, and you're connecting to where you start treating yourself like someone that you love again. And I think that's the biggest thing with grounding is, yes, go out into nature if that's something that speaks to you. But if it's not, what is grounding for you? Whether that is, really showing up for the people that are around you, whether that's, treating yourself, whether that is like giving yourself some space and time to just kind of really check in with you and see how you're actually truly feeling. Those things can also be very grounding. And I know grounding can just sound like a very woo term, but I think it's a reminder for us to kind of take that time out to reconnect to ourselves, to our soul, to our body, and just taking that into like the next level, so to speak. And I think that's kind of what a lot of this energy is kind of saying, is that things are not really moving the way that you want, or maybe it's hard for you to see what is trying to kind of unfold for you because things haven't really been grounded, or there's things that you haven't really processed. And in grounding, you can start processing that energy. So next I have Abracadabra with wings. This is fantastic good fortune and lucky chances. So I think that this is just a reminder of you really making choices and connecting with things that allow the changes that you want to really start coming forward. So I like to do a practice, I call it, and I've seen it like on TikTok and stuff like that or whatever, where it's like lucky girl syndrome. So I just remind myself every day, I'm like, I'm so lucky. Everything always works out for me. It's something that I've written in a couple of like my journals and my like manifestation books and things like that. It just really helps me to kind of reframe that sense in my head, because it's so easy to get caught up in the things that aren't going to work, or caught up in old stories. And I think with this is almost saying like, be receptive, be open to allowing things to work out for you in your favor, to work out easily, to not be something that's challenging. And I think that by grounding, and getting into this kind of tree energy and connecting with the nature spirits, that then your 9 of Cups, your wishes being fulfilled, can finally really start to take root and start coming towards you. And it's really about having that magic and like, what stories are you telling yourself? What things are you believing in? Or are you too caught up in the analytical and the logical and how's that going to work and how's this going to be? And maybe this is why this 4 of Swords is saying you have to heal some stuff. You need to take a break. You need to just breathe and let that be the magic that kind of pulls you forward. So this card is the Farmer. So I enjoy being of service to those who deserve it. And I think that this kind of goes with the energy of the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups. I can't talk today. And I think it's not so much of like, oh, you got to go out into the earth and like do things. It's more of just showing up in grounding service, which can be very much a farmer kind of activity in the sense of being of service, really showing up for people, really planting the seeds of that goodness and the richness and the magic and the good fortune that's trying to come into your life in so many different ways. And I think with the Farmer, it's more of just a reminder of just, we have been doing the work. And sometimes it can feel very much like every seed that we plant is not always going to take root. Not every seed that's planted is going to prosper. Not every seed that we plant is going to grow the way that we expected or anticipated. So it's very much about taking those chances and looking at the opportunities and the potential in the seed and giving it what it needs in order for it to grow to its potential, to have those possibilities really become a little bit more established for us. And I think that the Farmer is kind of just saying, hey, you have to enjoy the work. We have to kind of be okay with the actual physical aspect of what we need to do in order for us to enjoy the things that are trying to take root and come into our lives. Now, for the soul cards that I pulled, we have Warrior, Evolve, and Shadow. I think it's interesting because when I think of the knights in all of the in all of the court cards for all of the suits, I think of them as like they are the warriors. They're the front line. They're the ones that would say, you know what, I'm willing to fight for this. And I think that for you is that maybe you've been so like challenged or have felt like you have just been going and going and going. There's those mountains, so to speak, where you just feel like I'm constantly having these obstacles and these things that I have to overcome. It's hard to not get caught in this like story of I have to work really hard. I have to battle it out. I have to go to war for the things that I want versus allowing things to just be easy, allowing things to kind of come into your life. And maybe that is the shadow because I pulled this one next. And maybe there's a lot of different things within yourself that need to be addressed in the sense of what you feel that you deserve, what you feel that you're worthy of, how you feel that it should be, because that's another thing when it comes to manifesting and abundance and clearing some of those wounds is sometimes we feel like it has to be hard for it to be worth it to us. And that is a lesson I've been having to really process the last couple of years of not allowing myself to have the possibility of ease, of not allowing myself to not feel as though the measure of my success has to come at the cost of how hard it was for me to get there. And I think with warrior, it's almost saying you can still have this like warrior drive, this warrior spirit, this like I can accomplish whatever comes my way and I can get things done. And then also understanding that sometimes that shadow is what's kind of keeping us from really seeing clearly, from being able to see what it is that is trying to kind of happen for us and happen in our lives in a way that is of benefit to us. So I think that's why finally we end with Evolve, which is maybe saying it's time to kind of change the narrative. It's time for us to tell a different story. This Queen of Swords, where we're trying to be so logical and so analytical, and then we're kind of like internalizing a lot of this stuff. And then we're internalizing this like, oh, I have to be strong and I have to be emotionally stable and blah, blah, blah. And I can't just like feel my feelings. I think that this is almost saying we have to move on from whatever's been holding us back so that we can truly evolve into this like beautiful, fantastic good fortune and the lucky chances. So we need to kind of ground our energy. There's another tree, so that, you know, we can really plant the seeds for what it is that we want and that we can see that evolve. We can see the things that we're setting for ourselves evolve into something beautiful and actually start to see that sun rise up in our lives. So I hope that that made sense. Let me know if you have any questions or what you thought about this reading. I really appreciate you watching. Have a good one. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, make good choices. Bye. Hello, pile 2. Thank you for joining me. I really hope that the stuff that we talk about brings you some clarity as well as some verification to things that have maybe been going on or things to kind of keep in mind as you kind of continuously move through these energies. So let's pull some cards. Let's see what's up. Let's see. What do we want? Okay. I think we'll pull one more. Oh my gosh. I've been pulling the Knight of Pentacles everywhere. So I'm like, I don't think that this one, I don't think this one should be reversed either. Okay. I think we want those. And then we're going to pull one of these. One of these. Pull one of these. You're like, what is she doing over here? I'm just pulling random things. That's so funny. I already had a shadow card with the other one. So I guess I need to do a shadow work reading. So this way we can kind of see what's going on with all that energy. Okay. I think I have everything that I want. And I think I have everything where I want it to be. All right. So pile number 2. Right. So the very first card we have is the Ace of Wands, which to me is really about that new vitality kind of coming into our lives. It's the spark of really getting out there, doing new things, really seeing some actual momentum and movement starting to really take off in our lives. But it is new. So it's not going to feel super like stable. It's really going to require us to be more mindful of like what we're choosing, how we're showing up, what we're doing with that energy. Now, next to that, I have the Six of Cups, which to me is a card of nostalgia. It can really just be a reminder of like having some of those connections to either childhood memories, maybe even taking some time out to connect a little bit more to yourself and your inner child. And maybe that is where you're seeing most of this momentum, is that it is kind of saying, hey, you need to kind of take care of those things within. There's some stuff that is maybe coming up right now that needs to be addressed. And having the sun, I know that I pulled it reverse, but I think it needs to be upright. I think that this is just a reminder to kind of tell you, like, find the joy, find the warmth, find the things that make you feel playful and like you're having fun again. Like, it's funny because I live in Colorado. It has been very overcast the last few days. And I'm like, where's the sun? Where's the sun? And it's like, I keep pulling the sun. And I'm like, I know. I'm like missing the sun too. But I think that the sun is really about recognizing what the sun is in your life. Like, we need the sun in order to live, right? That's kind of the whole basis of having life on earth. And so I feel like it's very much a reminder of that same kind of energy. It's like, what are you giving life to? Where is the sun in your own life? Like, what is giving you life in a lot of different ways? Now, since it's a major card and we have 2 major cards in this spread here, I think that this is maybe feeling like a very pivotal time for you, where there's like some very big things that are maybe being set into motion that you need to be very mindful of, as well as like what it is that you're doing with this energy. And having the 10 of Wands reverse is, I think, a good thing, because it's almost saying like you're done overburdening yourself. You're done exhausting yourself to kind of make everybody else feel comfortable. To me, this is almost saying like, maybe you finally have realized, I can't do it by myself and I don't freaking want to. I need help. I need other people to show up and give me some guidance or give me some support in different ways. And I think with the 10 of Wands, it's more of a reminder for you that you don't have to continuously carry the burden of everything that you want and that you need. And maybe that is by connecting to this kind of inner child energy of just like really being connected to taking care of yourself, that is allowing you to ask for help when needed and to not just continuously overburden yourself. Now, underneath it, we have the 7 of Wands reversed. So this can just feel like maybe you finally feel like some of this energy is finally lifting, where you're not feeling so stuck, where you're not feeling so kind of put into a challenging kind of situation. It can feel very much like you're finally kind of moving out of this energy where you are recognizing your own personal power. But with this being internalized or more reversed, I think that it's maybe a reminder for you to not always put yourself out, not count yourself down, essentially like really giving yourself that chance to kind of show up, to re-empower yourself, to reinvigorate those kind of creative energies within yourself. So there may be a lot of this kind of internalized energy right now of just like, I want to move, but maybe you're not seeing quite as much momentum. Now, I think it's interesting because then we have the Chariot. So the Chariot is also the ruler of Cancer season. So I feel like it's very much this kind of energy of like, okay, I'm ready to kind of get going. I'm ready to align myself with my energy and what it is that I want. I'm ready to kind of go after what it is that I want. And I think the biggest thing with the Chariot is that it's a reminder for you to do what is necessary to take care of yourself. With this also being the other major card here, I think that it's almost saying like, okay, we have the energy of the sun. We need to find what is making us feel connected and loved and, like essentially, where's the sun in your life? And then also, what is driving you? What is driving your heart? What is motivating you at this time? Knowing that, yes, challenges may come up along the path, but that's okay because you have the strength necessary to overcome whatever may arise. Now, the Knight of Pentacles, again, I keep pulling this card. I think that this is maybe a reminder of remaining steady, remaining patient, of understanding that there is something that is coming your way, but you may have to kind of also go out and meet it halfway. And it's very much this energy of figuring out what you're willing to fight for, what you're willing to kind of focus on, what it is that's kind of driving you at this time. And when I think of the knights, they're like the warriors, right? So I feel like it's very much about recognizing what you physically want in your life, what your space or your home, or what home means to you, or physically feeling at home with yourself as well. And also kind of recognizing this energy of like, what career path have you gone after? What sort of things do you actually physically want from the things that are currently feeding you, and how that feels for you in so many different ways? So I think the Knight of Pentacles here at the end is kind of saying, all right, you had the spark of creativity kind of push you. Now, what are we physically doing to actually manifest those things? What do we need to go after? What is it that we need to kind of do to have that sense of joy and happiness? And what insecurities have we not really processed that maybe need to be dealt with, so that we're not overburdening ourselves with things that don't really make sense, and we're not constantly challenging what we're doing. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I think that this is really kind of maybe feeling a little bit like a push and pull between things that you've experienced and things that you're currently going through, as well as like what it is that you really need. And I think it's funny because I did pull this self-confidence card, and it's really saying to have a strong self-belief and a sense of worth. And I think with these cards, especially with like the sun and also having, the Seven of Wands reversed, it's almost saying like, yeah, you need to be confident in yourself. You need to know that those things that are being presented to you at this time are being presented to you because you're ready for them. Don't question yourself so much. Don't doubt yourself so much. It's really about, again, you really connecting to your sense of self-worth, and treating yourself like someone that you love is going to be extremely valuable and important to you at this time. So there's something that needs to change there. Now, we have Eagle, which is all about communion. And I think that Eagle, like what I'm kind of just sensing from this energy of this card, is more of a recognition of like how powerful you are. And eagles build their nest up very high. So I feel like there's also this sense of separating yourself from the world in some ways, not in a like, oh, you got to go be a hermit, more of a get a different perspective, get a higher perspective, change your view, so to speak. Because eagles, again, they really put themselves up out of the way, very high spaces. And I think it's more of saying like, okay, you need to kind of elevate how you're connecting and this sense of communion, so to speak. And as we can see here, there's like this indigenous person that almost seems like they're opening themselves up to the perspective of eagle. And I think that's the biggest thing here, is it's not so much of this like communion, because when I think of communion, being raised Catholic, I think of like, going and confessing and then like taking communion during Mass. I think it's so much more than that, in the sense of really elevating the experience of connecting to the higher self, connecting to a different perspective, challenging what we're observing, things like that. I think that that's really the message here. And maybe that's where the self-confidence energy is also coming from. It's almost saying like, you need to have a reconnecting to you. And this is what's going to allow you to have a sense of communion, so to speak, changing the perspective of who you are, so that you have a strong sense of worth and a strong like reconnection to your self-belief. Now, if we move on to this card, it's called the Truthful. This says, I speak my truth and expect everyone I care about to do so too. Now, it's funny because when I think of these cards, especially like with the Sun and with the Chariot, I think it's very much this kind of energy of really showing up and speaking what it is that like is driving you, speaking what it is that makes you shine and makes you feel connected, and also allows you to have a sense of like movement and momentum and not feeling kind of stuck in someone else's story. And I think that by having self-confidence and speaking your truth, it allows other people to see that and to kind of want to show up in that energy as well. And I know it can seem so like, oh yeah, I'm always speaking my truth or whatever, but is it actually something that you're really physically transmitting, especially if you've been feeling a little bit doubtful, if you've been kind of challenging yourself in some ways, or if you've been carrying the burden of so many other things, that it can kind of make you feel a little bit disconnected as far as like what your truth is, what that looks like, what it really sounds like and feels like at this time. Now, I keep getting a lot of the same cards from like different decks. It's funny. So shadow. I think of shadow as a reminder that not everything that we see within ourselves is the truth. When we look at a shadow, it's not really how something is. It's a perception. It's an image. It's a play on light, so to speak. And I think the shadow here is almost saying like maybe there's some stuff inside of you that you've been carrying that is not allowing you that clarity to not look at things from a different perspective. And that is also maybe something that is clouding your self-confidence and not allowing you to really step into your full truth. So I think I'm going to actually post a shadow work reading for like maybe this week or next week, just to kind of like see if maybe that kind of helps people like with what it is that they need to kind of be focusing on and what it is that maybe right now your soul's kind of saying like, I need to work through this stuff. And I know shadow work can seem very overwhelming or challenging, but I can tell you that it is so beneficial to do so, to take that time out to kind of reconnect to those things, because how we view ourselves is not always the truth of who we are. And I think with the truthful card is that it's really saying maybe you don't see yourself fully how you are. And so it's hard. And until you kind of process some of this shadow energy, where maybe there's just like things that are kind of repeating or looping in your head that really don't make sense anymore for like who you are at the current moment, stories that other people have told you, or even just like other perceptions that really aren't, again, the truth of who you are. I think shadow is just kind of saying like, hey, we have to kind of deal with this. And I think that's where this let go card is kind of saying like, hey, we have to let go. We have to let go of the shadow. It is no longer beneficial for us. And I think it's interesting because I also pulled the manifest card first. And I think the biggest thing with manifesting is that so many people are like, I'm trying, but nothing's changing, or nothing is coming through, or nothing is really taking off, or things are not really manifesting the way that I thought they were going to. We have to let go. That is a big thing with manifesting, is that you do what you can. You set up the circumstances, you set up the space, you set up the situation as best as you can within your capacity and capabilities, and you allow the universe to respond in kind. You just let it go. And I think the letting go is also a big part of like clearing some of this energy. And I think with the shadow card, it's saying like, maybe this is why it's hard, because you've been trying to establish what it looks like, to try to have it make sense for you. Sometimes when we manifest stuff, it isn't going to look exactly how we perceive that it should be, because maybe we have some limitations around how that can look or how something can come into our lives. And I think with manifesting is very much about, again, kind of holding that space, making that space, allowing the magic to do what it needs to do. And you have to just release and let go and not hang on to so much. Another big thing with manifesting is, again, you have to kind of heal certain aspects of yourself so that those things can actually take root in your life. And maybe that's why we have this held card here, is that you need to take some time out to hold that inner child, to give yourself that kind of like loving yourself and taking care of yourself and finding the joy and what makes you shine in your life. So hold yourself to that kind of energy and really show up in that by not being afraid to see how this is trying to take root in your life. And I think with the shadow card is also a reminder of just kind of holding yourself in that shadow and not judging yourself so much, because we all have different aspects of ourselves that maybe we don't like or that we find hard to love. But we have to kind of give ourselves a little bit of that love, even if it seems a little bit scary. And maybe that's another part of just learning to let go of that shadow so that those things that you want can manifest and you can truly shine the way that you need to. And you can start seeing some progress in the things that you would like to go out and have in your life. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much for joining me. Pile number 2. Please take care, stay safe, make good choices, and, as always, start taking care of you a little bit. Have a good one. Bye. Hello, pile number 3. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see what we have for you today. So let's pull some cards and let's see what magic we can kind of conjure up here. Oh, I think that one wanted to come out, so we're just going to put it there for a second. Let's see what we have. All right. Oh my goodness. That's so funny. I keep getting similar cards out of all of the decks, so I think all of us are kind of going through something very similar. That's so funny. I literally am pulling similar cards that I already have. All right, and I think I actually pulled some of these cards, not these specific out of this deck, but similar cards for the Sunday pick a card readings that I do on my Instagram account. I've pulled a few of these, so let's see. We're going to grab. All right, we got that. I think I want to grab you. Oh my goodness. I guess we're all kind of going through the same kind of energy, it seems like. Let me grab one of these. And oh, that's funny. That's so funny when there's like similar messages, even in between like the cards I just pulled. Okay. My throat has still been scratchy, so I'm going to apologize if I still sound kind of raspy. I don't think I'm ever going to get over this like stupid little cough. Okay. So, looking at all of these cards, sorry, I hit my microphone. So it's funny because I have pulled the Queen of Cups with pile 1 to reversed. No, actually, I pulled it upright. I pulled the King of Cups reversed with that one. So that's why I was like, that's just funny. So here we have the Queen of Cups reversed. To me, this is almost saying like maybe there's a lack of connection to the feminine within yourself, of like taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself, allowing yourself to kind of connect to the intuitive side of who you are, or maybe even kind of trusting it a little bit. Maybe it's been a little bit hard for you to kind of move with that energy. Maybe it's challenging in the sense of it just maybe feels a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe it's just not the easiest energy for you to kind of step into. And so right now it may feel as though it's hard for you to kind of trust what you're feeling, trust what's coming up. Maybe there's been some issues with some of the connections in your life. Now, having the King of Swords next to it, I feel like this is almost saying that you're maybe too much in like the higher mind, too much in the analytical, the logical, the truth, the empowerment. Maybe you're being a little too cutting, so to speak. I don't always look at the King of Cups as like a bad card. I know some people are, the King of Swords as a bad card, because I think a lot of people look at the sword suit as just being very negative. And yes, there are things that are a little bit harder, but all of life is a spectrum. And I think the King of Swords is someone who can just be very direct when needed, but sometimes that's not always the best way of going about it. So maybe I think, especially with this Queen of Cups, is maybe that there's a lot of feelings underneath the surface that are being more like metabolized in a much more analytical way versus like saying, I actually am feeling this way. We're saying, I think I feel this way, which is something I tend to do. So I totally get it. And I think maybe that's what this is kind of saying, where you're just like, I think it's going to be like this, or I think I want it to be that way, or whatever. Now, next to that, we have the Magician. The Magician is quickly becoming one of these cards that I think I really just absolutely adore and love, because it's a card of like manifesting. It's a card of like spiritual awareness. To me, it's very much a reminder that we have all of the tools at our disposal to create the magic that we need. It's also a reminder that a good magician knows exactly what it is that they're doing before they actually do the magic. And if anything, I feel with this Queen of Cups kind of behind it, it's almost saying like, you have to let yourself feel it, not just internalize and kind of be so in your head about what it is that you're trying to manifest for yourself. And maybe that is something that is kind of holding you back in some ways, is that you're not letting yourself really feel into the things that you're trying to co-create with yourself. And maybe that's why you're not seeing some of the momentum and the movement, is because right now you're too caught up in some of the details, or you're too caught up in like the analytical, like, how's it going to work? How's it going to be? How's it going to show up? How do I know? How can I be sure? Like that kind of questioning so much the magic that you're trying to co-create, that it's hard for you to see the movement and momentum that is trying to take place. So right now there's maybe a little bit of a stagnation. You're not seeing things really take root, because maybe you're like, I'm over here doing the thing. I'm over here trying to do the magic, and things are not flowing. Things are not going the way that I thought they were going to. And so maybe there's this like, see, I knew that things weren't going to move. See, I knew things weren't going to come together the way that I thought they were going to. So there's a little bit of this like questioning, hesitation, really doubting yourself in a lot of ways, because you're not seeing the progress. You're not seeing progression. You're not seeing, again, like that momentum and that movement. You're not getting that second wind of like, aha, see, I knew it's going to happen. I see it happening now. Now with the Five of Cups reverse here, this usually talks about emotional losses. So maybe this is you turning off the emotions and being so much in this King of Swords, like the analytical, the mind, where's the logic here? So emotionally, there is a sense of, yes, I've lost it, but I don't even freaking care anymore. And whether that is an emotional loss, because the Five of Cups typically talks about losses on the more emotional front. So this can be relationships. This can be something that we had a lot of hope for that didn't really work out the way that we anticipated. The Five of Cups kind of gives us this energy of just like, okay, I am done. I'm over it. I'm not going to keep focusing on this because it's not really worth it to me any longer. And so as much as this can be seen as like a challenging card because it talks about the loss of something that we really cared about, this is almost saying like your give a damn's busted. And so maybe it is to your advantage because you're not being so driven by the emotional that it's disconnecting you from what it is that is trying to kind of happen. But maybe you're too much in the mind. You're too high in that energy. And I'm sorry if you hear dogs barking. Everyone's got their dogs out. So the King of Cups, to me, especially reversed, and with this Queen of Cups, is that there's a lack of emotional balance in some way. There's nothing to kind of emotionally stabilize you. And so when our emotions are not in check, because as we can see, the Magician still has his cup there. He still has his feeling in it. It's hard for us to manifest what we're trying to kind of bring into our lives. Sorry, there's a fly in here because I have one of my doors open. So it's one of these things where there is this kind of energy of like, we have to kind of look at our emotional state, what we want, what we need, what we're doing. And with the King of Cups reversed, I think it's very much like there's an emotional disconnect. It's not allowing us to really stabilize this energy moving forward. But we have to kind of look at what is it that we're working towards, because the Nine of Pentacles always talks about our hard work, our determination, our dedication. it like really establishing everything that we've been doing, and also recognizing that we are so close to the rewards that we have, but there's something that we need to let go of. So even if things are not progressing the way that you thought they were going to, it doesn't mean that there isn't progress being made, or that something good is still not going to come from the situation, even if you're not seeing it at the current moment as it needs to be. Just making sure my mic is still on, since it usually likes to die around this time. So I think with the Nine of Pentacles, it's more of saying, okay, you have to be very mindful and aware that this energy that you've been carrying, it can't always feel or look the way that you thought it was going to. And you don't always have to give something up in order for you to enjoy it. Or it may not always move the way that you think it's going to in order for you to see progression and progress. You just have to manifest and have the spiritual awareness and the trust that everything is really working in your favor. Even if right now you're like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know how I feel about everything. And of course I would hit something over here. It's very much this kind of energy of just like, what do I really want? And what do I need to do to make that actually come into my life? Now it's funny because there's so many cups cards, right? And then we have water, which is about working with the element of water for healing and purification. So when I think of water as the element, it is very healing. That's why some people love going to the beach or the ocean, or, you know, people want to take vacations to like beautiful beaches and warm tropical kind of energies. And it's that salt water, right? It's like, you know, crying is very healing. Water in and of itself can be very healing. We need water to survive and exist. So maybe this is a reminder that you need to kind of work with water at this time to heal yourself, whether that is like having intentions with the water that you're drinking, maybe having intentional like spiritual baths and just connecting to water, maybe even in the shower of just like, this is cleansing, this is purifying, and really reconnecting to that sort of energy of just flowing. And I think with all these reversed cups cards, it's really saying it's okay for you to feel. It's okay for you to connect with that, to use that divine kind of water energy within yourself, whether you have water placements or not in your astrological chart. We all have water energy because we're made out of water. And a bunch of other things too. But, you know, it's like one of these things where like we have to kind of recognize that we are all the elements in motion. And so we have to kind of give ourselves this like honorable sort of energy of just like bringing that back to ourselves, to kind of healing ourselves. And I think also with childhood here, it's really saying, hey, you got to connect a little bit more to the inner child. You need to connect a little bit more to the things that you learned, the lessons that you kind of took on as a child that maybe aren't really making sense for who you are as an adult. Maybe there's something here that you're hanging back on that's really not making sense for who you are and what's kind of going on. And it's very much about, again, kind of like that water. I think that there's some healing that needs to kind of happen with the childhood energy, maybe like remothering yourself, refathering yourself, giving yourself the nurturance and guidance that maybe you didn't receive as a child, and kind of moving out of that energy. Hopefully this fly will leave me alone because that's going to drive me nuts. Now, this card is the partners. This is, I keep my word and I put my partnership first in all ways. When I think of partnership, I don't think it's just romantic, right? I think that it can be friendships, it can be siblings, it can be familial, it can be so many different ways of really partnering with people, colleagues, coworkers. And I think that this is almost saying like, how are you showing up in those partnerships? And I think with the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups here reversed and having this King of Swords is that maybe you have kind of cut yourself away from some meaningful relationships. And I think that this is almost saying, hey, who have you been forgetting to connect to? What sort of partnerships do you need right now? What sort of connections are trying to kind of establish themselves in your life? And how can you kind of reconnect with that energy a little bit more so that you can really grow with the people around you? We need people. Like, as much as I am an introvert, I understand that relationships, partnerships, connections are divinely supported in so many different ways because they allow me to kind of grow. So I'm so sorry if you can hear that buzzing. It is driving me nuts already. All right. So next we have gift. I think that this is just kind of saying that maybe there's something in your situation that is allowing you to understand the gift here, whether that is this really recognizing that there's things within yourself that need to be processed, whether that's allowing yourself to heal and to purify and to see your hard work actually coming to fruition and recognizing your divine power. I think the gift here is really just saying that there's something here that maybe you didn't expect, but you deserve it. So allow yourself to really have that. And I think with the partners card, it's really kind of saying like maybe your gift is in partnership. Maybe your gift is in showing up for others that really need it, especially having tribe, kin. I think that these cards are kind of saying like, hey, you need to find your people. You need to find, so I'm trying to swat this stupid fly away. Because he's just flying over by me now. So tribe to me is really just kind of saying you need to find your partners. You need to find the people around you that will be supportive of you. You need to find the people that can see you where you are at and can still love you where you are at and give you the energy that you need to kind of really grow. Maybe that is a childhood thing as well, is that maybe for too long you've kind of disconnected because you didn't feel like it was safe. And kin to me, yes, it can talk about those like ancestral kind of connections, so to speak. But I think that the other thing with this is that it's really saying, where are you rooted? Like what is in your root system right now? What is feeding you? What is allowing you to really truly show up and grow in that? And I think with tribe and kin, it's really saying like the people that you're choosing, the people that you want to kind of be around you and support you and love you, and that you will also love and support, can become your kin, so to speak, energetically, you know, maybe like at a soul level, like there's some lessons here that haven't really been processed. And so maybe it's time for you to kind of say, all right, maybe my family of origin is not the best, but I can choose who I want around me. I can create my own kind of new soul family that can really be supportive and give me what I need. And I think with divine, it's really about recognizing the divine in yourself. And I think that really goes back to the energy of the magician here, where it's saying, hey, you have so much power within yourself, but you just haven't really allowed yourself to really step fully into it. And maybe that's why you're not seeing things kind of progress the way that you want. And maybe this is a reminder that not everything moves the way that we want. It moves in divine timing. We're given what we are needed whenever the universe says, all right, you're ready for it. And sometimes it's instantaneous. Other times the gift takes a little bit longer. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think maybe you've been kind of judging yourself a little bit about some of the things that have been happening. Maybe there's stuff from your childhood that's been holding you back and you kind of forget that, because maybe you're like me, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm like, at this big age, I should know what I'm doing. So I hope that that makes sense. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. Thank you for, being here. Have a good one. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, make good choices. Bye.